La Asamblea escuchará ahora.
The Assembly will hear an address by His Excellency Brice Clotaire Oligui Nguema, President of the Transition and Head of State of the Gabonese Republic. I request protocol to escort His Excellency and invite him to address the Assembly.
Monsieur le Président,
President of the General Assembly, Heads of State and Government, Secretary General of the United Nations, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Gabonese people, I am happy to take part in the work of this General Assembly of the United Nations. President Philemon Yang, in taking the floor for the first time before this august assembly, I would like at the outset to address to you my warm congratulations on your outstanding election to preside the 79th session of the General Assembly of the United Nations. And I wish you all the best. I express my compliments too to the seasoned interpreter that you are, representative of a brotherly country, Cameroon, linked to Gabon by geography, history, and culture. Please be assured of the full support of my country throughout your mandate. And finally, I would like to pay tribute, well-deserved tribute, to Mr. Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of our organization, for his tireless devotion and commitment to servicing the ideals of the United Nations. Mr. President, I'd like to take this opportunity to bring to your attention that the current debate is taking place at a moment where my country, Gabon, has just celebrated the first anniversary of the liberation coup. Indeed, our path towards the construction of a new Gabon to date has been able to keep its promises that we announced here at the last general debate, namely the establishment of transitional institutions, the release of prisoners of conscience, permanent inclusivity, the holding of an inclusive national dialogue, the drafting of a new constitution. The next step is to organize the referendum in the coming months and the adoption of an electoral code and a revision of the electoral register in accordance with the timetable adopted during the inclusive national dialogue. All of this progress, supported by the people of Gabon, contributes to a progressive return to our constitutional order through free, transparent, and peaceful elections as soon as possible. Apart from these points that I have just outlined, significant reforms have been undertaken in sectors that directly affect human development. Roads, healthcare centres, schools, a return to school grants, the opening up of competitions for our major universities, lifting of the recruitment freeze, and the payment of pension arrears, all of this respecting our international commitments at the same time. And this is the opportunity for me to thank all of our partners, friendly countries and donors of national and international funds that have accompanied us in this transition process, despite the difficulties of the process. Ladies and gentlemen, the current General Assembly is focusing on the subject unity and diversity for the advancement of peace, sustainable development, and human dignity everywhere and for everyone. This is part of our building of a planetary community that is in harmony with the principles mentioned in the preamble to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights of 1948. Gabon faithful as we are to our tradition of peace, unreservedly supports this project aiming at a more just and inclusive interactive world. On the day after the liberation coup of the 30th of August 2023 that was carried out without bloodshed, we advocated for the preservation of peace and for national unity by appealing to all stakeholders of the nation, whatever their origins, their beliefs, or their social status, in an effort to build a fairer and more prosperous Gabon. Ladies and gentlemen, respect for life, territorial integrity, the sovereignty of states to freely choose their partners, and rejection of violence, all of these things favor peace building. With regard to sustainable development, my country maintains a firm and coherent position in favor of protecting the environment. I would like to recall that for several years now, Gabon has dedicated 13 national parks to the service of humanity, thus contributing to the absorption of more than 100 million net tons of CO2 per year and the preservation of threatened species. Nevertheless, this does not mean in any way that we are bypassing the expectations of our population who are focused on their basic needs being met. That is why this forum is the occasion to recall to industrialized nations the need for them to respect their commitments by supporting the countries that host the greatest carbon sinks in the world. Mr. President, with regard to security, as many of us would believe, I feel that it is an urgent matter to provide appropriate responses to the numerous conflicts that we see in the world, and particularly in Africa. I would like to once again welcome the adoption by the Security Council on the 21st of December 2023 of Resolution 2719 on the financing of peace support operations led by the African Union. In accordance with the new Agenda for Peace of the Secretary-General of the United Nations, this resolution, presented jointly by Gabon, Ghana and Mozambique, today is a crucial part of the architecture for international peace and security. Its implementation is an absolute imperative. And I would like to take this opportunity to support the efforts of the Secretary-General aimed at providing a realistic, pragmatic and sustainable political solution for the Moroccan Sahara. I would also like to welcome the official announcement made by the United States of America that they support the admission of 2 African states as permanent members of the Security Council. However, Africa is expecting broader support from other permanent members of the Security Council for this initiative. And at the same time, we expect access for African members to the right to veto. The right to veto, this would simply be justice for our continent. Over and above the African continent, I would invite you to not avert your gaze from Gaza. It's time more than ever before for lasting peace with a view to the harmonious existence of 2 states, Palestinian and Israeli. And I would also like to reiterate the position of Gabon for the lifting of the economic, trade and financial embargo imposed on Cuba because of its negative impact on the well-being of the population. President, ladies and gentlemen, as President Félix Houphouët-Boigny said, peace is not just a word, it's a behavior, it's a genuine state of mind. This legitimate aspiration of peoples is an ideal. It recommends that developed countries that have experience in resolving conflicts share with other states their know-how to build a more just and more balanced world. Unity in diversity for making progress in peace, sustainable development, and human dignity everywhere and for everyone is, in my view, a genuine society of dialogue, tolerance, and respect for others. This should help us to build a world where development will be adapted to everyone's needs, to the needs of all peoples. Mr. President, with regard to economic and financial matters, the 2024 report of the United Nations on Sustainable Development underscores once again the urgency for mobilizing massive funding in order to plug the financing gap in the economy, aimed at several $billion. This is a reality. The international financial system, as it is at the moment, does not enable us to steer investment towards development and thus to ensure the dignity of our populations, which we are addressing in our debate this year. I also share with you the willingness of my peers to reform international financial institutions. This is crucial in order to produce financing for developing countries. Secretary General of the United Nations, ladies and gentlemen, heads of state and government, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. My country, Gabon, is resolutely committed to restore happiness, and we plan to fully play our role to ensure that we build a human community that is working together and which everyone desires. Together, let us pool our efforts in the hope of a better future by acting in a different way in order to preserve the human race. I thank you.
En nombre de la Asamblea.
On behalf of the Assembly, I wish to thank the President of the Transition and Head of State of the Gabonese Republic.
Seguidamente,